Hello and welcome to this conversation in the Field Service News Solutions Theatre. Today we're going to be revisiting a conversation that was held live at Edgbaston at Field Service News Live 2022. And the topic of the conversation is the journey to dynamic scheduling, and it's a live case study with Mitie. I'm going to hand over to our host and who's going to guide us through this conversation, Mark Brewer, who's joined by Adam Barret at Mitie. Mark, handing over to yourself.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks for the opportunity to share this wonderful story with our client, Mitie. So, quickly, myself, Mark Brewer from IFS, an enterprise software company who's working in partnership with Mitie. Perhaps, Adam, I can ask you to give us a little overview of Mitie Fire and Security and your role in the organisation.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, so I'm Adam Barret. I'm the Operations Director at Mitie Fire and Security. Mitie Fire and Security is part of the wider FM offering that Mitie offer out. We've got about 270 field engineers that work across multiple disciplines across the UK and Northern Ireland.
Perfect, thank you. So, thinking about this project, and I remember when we first started talking about it, Adam, about a year ago now. Can you tell our listeners where it came from? What were the drivers for this project, and what were the types of areas you're looking to improve in the organisation?
Yeah, so originally we had the original sort of any business setup where we had a group of schedulers trying to organise engineers' workloads, and I suppose that as the business grew, that kind of structure didn't grow well with us. So we started to look at other options. I suppose we have a lot of reactive work coming through. With short SLAs, some of them have got like a 2-hour response that we need to get to on a fire alarm, and to have people respond that quickly and have that geographical knowledge was really difficult for us. So that's where we kind of started to look outside of that and look around solutions that could work for us, and make sure that we can start prioritising that level of work and get the most out of what the resources that we've actually got. So like the driving the jobs per day and driving the SLAs really.
So it was clear to you that there was more you could do if you had the right tools in place, essentially, to drive that productivity. Yeah. Yeah,
it's definitely. And I think when we started, going out to market and starting to review the solutions, we gave a baseline on a month that we manually were scheduling these engineers in, and then allowed the system to then give us an output, and the difference was tenfold really. So like the jobs per day was increasing, the SLAs were increasing. It is smartly scheduling. We could see that it was smartly planning the work in rather than kind of a reactive based planning that we were kind of doing. So if you've got humans kind of planning this stuff in, it felt as if it was a very reactive plan. So I know that they can get into that location. I don't need to book it in, and now we've managed to sort of flip that a little bit and move away from that where we're proactively planning.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I remember, we got your data, ran it through the tool and presented some of the results back, in the early days. That's a little bit around the tool, I guess. What about the project itself, the journey that you were on for those months? Did you encounter any challenges along the way? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, I think, well, apart from any internal challenges around whether or not, where we hosted it, I suppose we had to try and get all our people on board, because there's people sat behind these computers scheduling at one point. So we had to get them on board. Engineering, they weren't going to be having that like the site of work anymore. So that they're now getting jobs dropped on them as they're completing work. So it was a kind of new method of working for those guys. And I suppose all the other stakeholders, we had to get everybody on board. And I'd say the people were probably the most difficult part of getting the project working, and trying to get them and understanding the reasons why we were doing it and how it benefits them. Because everyone was kind of looking, going, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for me? Because it's a complete change in culture. And you kind of move to an outcome-based solution rather than the kind of reactive-based solution that we were sort of operating before as well. So I suppose the challenge, really was people, getting those people on board, getting them understanding the reasons why, get them using the system properly, and kind of taking the hand off the wheels. I mean, it was like kind of like an auto drive Tesla, right? At some point you need to take your hands off and allow that vehicle to drive itself. And I think the hardest bit is at that point is taking your hands off and trusting in the solution, really.
Yeah, no, I think that's a common story that we hear, across the piece, really. And even more dramatic in a company like yours, where you're going from sending a batch load of work to drip feeding the work. That's a real change in ways of working, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
massively. I mean, yeah, we did lose people for it. It wasn't for everybody, right? But we kind of planned that in that it wasn't going to be for everybody because people kind of like to know where they were going, and they have the foresight the following morning. They know where they're going to for their first job. But I suppose our business is so dynamically changing around reactive calls, where we kind of log probably 500 reactive calls a day. All those have got different SLAs. All those have got different priorities. Or, there could be penalties against them, where the system will know around this and just kind of allow us to sort of plan effectively and get the most out of the day as well.
brilliant, brilliant. So given you've been live for some months now, are you able to share any benefits that you've observed so far, and perhaps a little bit of insight into any future plans as well?
Yeah, definitely. So I suppose at the moment where we're at, and I don't think we're at the full capacity of the system being fully optimized. We're still doing some tweaks in the background. Ultimately, we're probably on average getting another job a day per engineer. We're operating probably 220 to 250 engineers each day on that system. So to get that extra job out of that, if you were to put that into a cost, it is massive for us as a benefit. We've had a reduction on drive time as well, which is great. So we've moved into we've probably got 60% EV fleet at the moment for our engineers. So moving to that EV fleet, obviously you need to reduce your travel at that point because I don't really want them sat charging up all their vehicles all the time. So to have that reduction in travel has also benefited the fact that we've moved to this kind of EV fleet as well. So yeah, so I suppose there's huge benefits into this, and I think it's given us a better reporting and better insight on what we're doing each day as we're tracking the progress of the system. I suppose future-wise, I know there's you are working on the EV software as well to allow us to plan in those charges as and when necessary. So certainly that'll be something we'll be looking at moving to as well as we roll out a fully electric fleet, because we do want to be fully electric fleet sort of by 2024 as well, which is
Wow,
not that far away really.
brilliant. Oh, fantastic. I mean, those numbers speak for themselves, I think, for the audience out there. On a broader note, I guess both internally and with your customers, actually, what have you, the general perception, have you had any feedback from customers? Have they noticed a change?
I suppose there's always impact to change, and we did feel that, I suppose, for a couple of months, where that impact is where we're trying to get used to the system and we're trying to make sure that it works in the system. And so I kind of, there was a dip in level of service, but we made sure all our customers were really on board with what we were doing, right? So the partnership was there, where they know and they can perceive that this wasn't a short-term solution. This is a long-term solution to give them better service and take the business from good to great. So we made sure that they were fully on the journey. We were having weekly calls with them, monthly calls, where we were showing them the progress of change. So yeah, I mean, we're not exactly where we need to be yet, but we are miles, ahead of where we were when we first did that implementation, and we're starting to see all those benefits come through, and the customers are starting to see those benefits as well, which is really positive.
Brilliant. I mean, there's so many stakeholders here. There's your technicians, of course, where the role changes. There's the dispatchers or the planners. Clearly, there's the customers in there as well, and management from an analytics and sort of performance measurement perspective. Speaking about the journey, and anyone else out there that might be thinking of making a similar transition, what words of wisdom could you share with our audience, Adam, around that?
I suppose it's just involve everybody. Everybody needs to be involved in the whole process and understanding on why you're doing it. Why are we implementing this, and what difference does it make to me? And I think that's what we did with the engineers, where we went out to the teams meetings and I was very open around what the solution does, how it benefits them, right? So these guys are getting home on time every day now. So where before you had that kind of variable kind of finish time, they are now getting home on time every single day. To the point that they're now asking me to extend their working days because they want overtime, which is great. But I suppose we had that like kind of we were able to provide them kind of a little bit of a balance of work as well. So if they need to drop their kids off early in the morning, we're able to shift their day a bit later, where before it was kind of binary, where we would kind of go, well, now, because our schedulers know that you start at 8 o'clock and you finish at 5, we're able to give them some level of balance back as well, which they've seen the benefit in too as well. So I think you get the people on board, get them an understanding on why you're doing it, and the comms. It was all to do with our comms. Our comms needs to be high. This is what we're doing. This is the changes we've made today. That constant feedback from engineering as well. So some of the stuff we were doing around the travel was impacting travel. It went up, and then to start winding stuff back down again. But that all came from the field rather than data as well, where they go, oh, I don't think this is right, and then it'll flag to us, and then we'll look at it, investigate, and go, actually, it's done this because of this. Let's put this in to stop that happening again. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I really like that closed loop that you've got, with the feedback angle from the technicians, and then tuning the tool to encompass that. That's great. Thanks so much, Adam, for sharing the story. Mitie's an amazing customer to work with, a giant in the FM world in the UK. We are, of course, very much looking forward to your future endeavours and perhaps broadening the use of the tool through the organisation. So thank you for your time today. Hopefully that was useful for the audience. And thanks, Chris, for giving us the opportunity to share the story.
No problem at all. And again, thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, Adam, for sharing. It's always useful to get that real life insight of how not just the selection of the tool, but right through to the implementation, the benefits that we're seeing, the pitfalls as well. And I think you both did a fantastic job of presenting a good case study in a short amount of time. And I'm sure if people want to find out more about similar case studies, Mark, it's straight to ifs.com, and there's plenty there if I'm correct. Brilliant. Well, thank you both, and as always, thank you all for tuning in. It is because we have an audience of service leaders that we're able to bring people like Mark and Adam onto the various different platforms that we have, and outline some of these solutions that can be of help to others in the field service community. So thank you all as well for watching. My name's Chris Oldland. I'm the Editor-in-Chief and founder of Field Service News, and we'll see you all again next time. Take care.